of terrible, Renault.
Go on, RJ.
So is Renault ready to announce a second driver yet to partner with Nico Hulkenberg?
No. Like, they are in a position where they're stuck between a rock and a bunch of angry F1 drivers.
So in other words, it's like basically Renault can't wrap their head around the fact they're basically spoilt for choice for driver options at this point, and it's like they can't wrap their heads around the idea of making the decision, basically.
Yeah, like, so apparently there's a lot of things that are coming up that actually play into stories we talked about earlier, where we have Fernando Alonso wants out of McLaren. It seemingly doesn't even care where anymore. We have Robert Kubica, who obviously wants to make a comeback. We have Carlos Sainz Jr., who wants to get out under the looming cloud of being potentially replaced by a Red Bull young driver down the line.
Pretty much.
And we also have both Force India drivers who want to move on to bigger, better things. Renault might not be as fast as Force India at the moment, but they have all the resources and facilities to build a car that would eventually be better than the Force India. So yeah, both Ocon could leave Mercedes and Perez could get that top seat that he wants.
So who do you take? Anyone?
I don't know, because there's also the drivers currently at Renault, because Julian Palmer, he wants to stay on. He's driving desperately to stay on.
He just burst into laughter as you said that.
In fairness, he had a pretty good qualifying session, and then it went all to poop. Julian Palmer is going to get so much money from Aston Martin next year in driving GT Pro.
Ooh. And outside of Palmer, the young driver in the Renault Driver Academy, Oliver Rowland, he is desperately trying to win this F2 championship.
Have fun with
and
that.
And he's not the only young driver. We just kind of forgot that Sergei Sirotkin's just chilling there.
Yeah, Sergei Sirotkin's just chilling there with that. Just like, I'm staying the program.
Yeah, I got the give me free birthday cake.
Yeah.
So there's literally like a dozen different options that Renault could have for that second seat alongside Nico Hulkenberg. Good luck picking that one out. It's
time to start a satellite team. Dacia F1, baby! Going to the top.
Dacia F1.
Yeah, boy! Oh, jeez. But, like...
Oh, this is just...
Who would you take in that
situation?
It is just... Because, like, there's a dozen names you could get right now if you really wanted to. Because, again, that is an appealing seat. It's probably the most appealing seat that's left in F1 right now. So...
The heart definitely wants Kubica. The head, it really wants Carlos Sainz or Esteban Ocon.
I want Sainz or Ocon.
Like, I want Sainz or Ocon. Let me get that clear right here and now. I will settle for
Roland would be acceptable third.
Yeah, I would take Roland. Roland's good. Like, it's just that Roland's got like maybe a once in a generation sort of talent competing against him in Formula 2 right now. But
so the fact that he's even able, to hold a candle up to him is like incredible nonetheless.
Seriously impressive. Yeah, exactly. But you know, it makes you wonder what would have happened if Sergio Perez had actually taken that Renault deal and then not changed his mind at the last minute.
What would happen if Sergio Perez just suddenly didn't race in Formula 1 anymore?
We'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah, go on, King. So, like, apparently,
in a moment where it's like there's still continuing about the Renault part. There's issue like there are things that Robert has limitations, and it's not. The limitations for Robert is how long he would stay with Renault. That's the big concern in the Renault camp, that if they do bring Robert back, how long is this going to be for? And they pretty much had to deflect away questions and say, is Robert a plan B or a plan C if they can't get a top driver to be a long-term project for their team? And they had to shoot down and like, no, Robert's not a plan B or a plan C. He's not just to hold off this question for a year.
Because the thing is, he's already 32 years old, and
yeah,
that would suddenly.
Not only is he 32 years old, he's 32 years old, and not been a Formula One driver full time for what, 5-6 years.
6 years, I think. I think his last season was 2011. Jeez. And then all of a sudden, Renault's got one of the oldest teams on the field as well, because he'd have an average age of 31, because you've got Nico Hulkenberg, who just turned 30 last week, in the paddock alongside him as well. So is that really what, like, are you basically saying, Renault, that, yeah, your academy, your services are no longer required? Because that's what that sort of move would illustrate. Like, why have you brought in Kubica when you've got a young driver academy with 2 really solid drivers in there?
And then you have the situation where, yes, Robert could do one full race distance, but you're like, he trained so hard just for that one thing. Now you have to consider that he has to do that 20 times in a year.
That's a big ask of any human being, let alone a 32-year-old with a permanently damaged arm that's not been around the F1 calendar for 6 years. She's 33 next year, and that's a big ask. And so yeah, there's a whole range of convoluted scenarios here. So good luck picking that one out. But yeah, I am all aboard the Carlos Sainz wagon. Let's go, Carlos! Let's get Carlos that factory seat he deserves. The man's a goddamn great driver. Here for that. Here for all of that. Speaking of alternative options, though, King,